using it right now.
Making sure it still works.
Alrighty, so sweet. So you've got it live. So I can do like a watch party, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see. Kathy's in the building.
I am here.
What's up?
Much. Hey, the building looks neat. Facilities in Austin.
Sweet. So you've got it live. So I can do like a. Let's see here.
All right.
I'm gonna move here because they're gonna do some work. Ooh, almost tripped there. All right, here it goes. Yeah, it's right there. I'm gonna try out this new table.
We're up live in the group.
So what are we starting with?
Rosé all day.
Rosé all day.
Already started. Hope you don't mind.
It's all good.
I think I put it in the second drawer. Yeah, let me grab it for you.
Bird or a bunny? Ooh, pretty.
Ooh, yeah.
That is a good sound.
Yeah, I
Yes.
was about to say, do the signature sound there.
Yep.
Too late for bunny.
Mm.
We've got about 5 minutes, so we'll wait till some more people get on.
Sounds great.
So where is Brownfield, Texas?
Southwest of Lubbock, about a half an hour.
Okay.
Yep. So we're pretty far out west. I'm in Frisco right now, so I'm a good 5.5 hours east of the winery.
Okay.
This winery.
Got Bonnie on. What's up, Bonnie?
He's probably going to tell the story again, but he's already talked about how my dad
Hey, Bonnie.
up wine. My tire blew on my way down there.
Carl, what's up?
What's the word?
Just ready to taste some good wine.
I hear that.
Nice.
Yep.
Oh, baby girl.
Okay. Sweet.
Hey.
Well,
This morning, baby.
Hey, Jake. So Harry had to work at the distillery today, so that's why he's not going to be joining.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, they've been spending a lot of time making hand sanitizer, which is also a very good thing.
No.
Ooh, it smells good already. All right, we'll try to save this Zoom call. Here we go.
I love these because when they get all oaky, wash them down super easy.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a big choice of tables, but I picked that one over the glass top so it wouldn't just get dirty. So they
Yeah.
could actually
I think that's fine.
to wash it off. I didn't want anything any bigger. They had some that were like upside down plant stands, but I didn't want it to also like leave. I wanted it to be like sturdier and for it to stay. So I like this. Some water goes through it. Maybe it won't tip
I
open.
think it's a good choice, Lisa.
I agree.
Yeah.
So you said about an hour and a half southwest of Lubbock?
Oh, about a half an hour, 30 minutes.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
We're in all the time.
Perfect. Perfect.
Where is it?
Half an hour southwest of Lubbock.
What's southwest of Lubbock?
Probably on the way to Midland,
Southwest? Tahoka?
maybe. Let's look 'em up.
Yeah, we're about 20 miles past Tahoka if you're heading west.
Oh, okay.
Know exactly where you are.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Brownfield? Brownfield.
Oh, okay.
And I can definitely recommend that you guys have some water because I think we've had a few of these things, and one of them we had a great time, but man, oh man, hurt a little bit the next day.
Good to stay hydrated. We're starting early. You know, start your drinking now, keep it going through dinner. Then the nightcap will be all set.
Yeah, we did that. Of course, Ron Yates was right there, and he drank glass for glass with us, and I think he had started before us. So
They have a Tempranillo too. It was a reserve class champion.
Hey, Mark,
It's a delicious one, that's for sure.
4:30 is the pickup time.
Yeah, I think the TNT is probably my favorite.
4:30 is pickup. HEB, if I'm not.
Hey, Eric.
Yeah, what's up? How are you, Bonnie?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Is Akil joining us? He said he was going to be. Have you spoken with him?
I let him know that I'm actually using his parents' house as my my backdrop here. So I'm not sure
Oh,
he's
cool.
not here at his house, but he knows it's going on. So
And are his parents there to say hello to us?
no, the parents are in Brownfield. I think they're probably at the Vineyard actually.
Okay. Oh, well.
Here we go. And we are ready.
Oh, there we go.
Nice, Sammy.
I
We're
like that.
transporting it.
Looks official.
Sweet. So I think we can get started. It's just after 2. We'll probably have a few more people jump in as the tasting goes. But Eric, thank you so much for joining us today on this lovely, wonderful day that we unfortunately have to stay inside. But I guess you don't have to. Not with this beautiful rosé. I mean, this is like perfect.
Well,
Summer.
that's terrific. Well, Sammy and Jake, thank you for inviting me on. This is really an awesome experience. Looks like Lisa's got it all figured out. She's out on a patio. She's got the wine. She's got the sunshine. Looks like a good time.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess we'll start off. Everyone, thank you so much once again for our 4th consecutive weekend together. Jeez, this is amazing, and we'll have another one I think before quarantine kind of semi-officially ends. More information on that towards the end of our tasting today. But today I am so excited on behalf of Austin, Texas Wine Society and Wanderlust Wine Company present Reddy Vineyards and Eric Sigmund from Reddy Vineyards. So funny story. I mean, this wine was a part of the 2020 Texas International Wine Competition. It was one of the entries that had come in. And so Kathy actually too was like, before she even knew of the results, she was like, man, this is cool. We were talking behind the scenes and she's like, I didn't even know what this wine was. And it was phenomenal. And so our panel, when we were judging it, automatically gold, 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 gold. And so then when it came down to make a decision for best of class, you know, it was was a no-brainer. I mean, this was an amazing. I mean, I gotta say, we definitely had some contestants or some contenders when it came for best of class. You know, everybody had their certain style, but I'll talk about definitely what I'll let Richard start, of course, and talk us through a little bit more of the region, the wine, and the grape itself, the grapes themselves. But then I'll jump in and say like what it was that just made this for me best of class. But once again, thank you so much for taking the time today. And let's kick off with a little cheers, and then we'll pass it on to Richard. Santé.
Cheers. Thank you.
Hey.
Cheers.
God, it's already, my computer's already drunk.
All right, can you guys see this? All right, so Sammy said today, this time around, we'll be tasting the Reddy Vineyards Rosé and Field Blend. And so it's a little bit difficult to do some of these, but when you have a strict varietal, it's easy to get all the pieces and taste and flavors and stuff. So this one's going to be a little bit different. But again, it's brought to you by the Austin, Texas Wine Society. Check us out on Facebook. Founders, I believe all of them are on. We've got Jake, Josh there with Sammy, myself. Our high table board members of Sammy, Alicia, Sean McKinney, Michael Stapleton, and a new one, Carl Enriquez. So pretty happy about that. Again, co-hosted by Wanderlust Wine Company, where a lot of you probably got your wine. Our special wine celebrity guest, Eric Sigmund, winemaker at Reddy. Believe that the wines we're going to be tasting are from the Texas High Plains. I always like to know exactly on a map. I'm kind of nutty about that. I can't. Whenever I go on vacations, I've always got maps with me because I like to know where I am in context and reference to everything else. So Texas High Plains up near the Panhandle, with Lubbock, I guess a little bit on the eastern side of it. So the rosé that we're going to be tasting. So this one is 73% Cinsault, 19% Mourvèdre, and 8% Merlot. And these are actually what the grapes themselves look like. I always like knowing that too. It's kind of I haven't spent a lot of time out in vineyards, but it's amazing how different they all are. And the leaf sizes are different. The grapes themselves, the bunches are tight, the bunches are loose. And then you've got red and white. So it's always very interesting to see those things, I think. Cinsault, red wine grape. It's very heat tolerant, also very productive. So it's important. And you usually hear a lot of Cinsault in the south of France, but it also carried on to the other French colonies early on, Algeria, Lebanon, Morocco. If you've ever had a Chateau Moussard, you've definitely had a Cinsault. Mourvèdre is one of the major grapes of the Rhone. Usually you see it along with Grenache and Syrah. It typically was a blending grape, but more and more it's being started to use as the primary. It's a very old variety brought to Spain by the Phoenicians around 500 BC, it's thought. And Merlot, identified by loose bunches of large dark berries. I just learned this today that the name is a diminutive of merle from French for blackbird. So I thought that was pretty cool because they are pretty dark black grapes. And its offspring, it's considered an offspring of Cab Franc and a half sibling of Carmenère, Malbec, and Cabernet Sauvignon. So I thought those were kind of pretty interesting little factoids about the grapes that went into this rosé.
Yeah, I know she really wants to be out here.
The fruit flavors that you're going to find in the strawberry, raspberry, cherry, and succulent red apple. The other flavors really depend on the type of grape you're using, and so the secondary flavors will really vary. Acidity can go from a bright to a medium to high. This particular one has a 13% alcohol. There's 3 different methods of making rosés. You've got the maceration method, the Sanier blending method or blend method, and then blending method. So we'll let Eric talk about which one is involved in this particular one. Food pairings. Rosés are great in the summertime. They're great for Texas because it's hot outside and these things are served cold. Salads, pastas, seafood, goat cheese, grilled fish. My personal favorite with rosé is just a classic salad niçoise with greens and red skin potatoes, haricot vert, black olives, tuna, and you make your own vinaigrette. And it's fantastic. And again, I'll let Eric talk about the field blend food tasting, because I've not had this one before, so I'm really interested in finding out more about it. That's a picture of a salad niçoise. And, if you're feeling particularly rich on a particular night, you can change that in tuna out to lobster, and it is fantastic. The field blend, again, High Plains. The alcohol on this one is 15.1. And it didn't specify the varietals. Again, we'll hear from Eric. It's won a couple of double golds. So that's actually really high praise for this particular wine. Field blend characteristics: cherries, tart strawberry, and I'm looking forward to the sweet tobacco and hint of oak. We actually found tobacco in the Mourvedre that we had the other day. That was pretty good. These have been aged for 32 months in oak to produce kind of a Reserva style. Again, 15.1, and then I cited my sources, and now we will go back to Eric. I think. I hope that was informative.
Yeah, Richard, that was perfect. Really good lead into a discussion of the individual wines. We'll start with the rosé, and hopefully you already have some in your glass and you've already been enjoying it. But the rosé has been a lot of fun for us. This is the first vintage that we've created a rosé. And actually, this is really one of the first opportunities we had to work with this style and make rosé. To just give you a little bit more background about Reddy Vineyards as well. The vineyard was originally planted to 5 acres of Cabernet Sauvignon in 1997 by Dr. VJ Reddy. So we're going on nearly 25 years now. Over that time, the vineyard has expanded significantly. We have 310 acres now planted to 38 different grape varietals, which makes us one of the largest vineyards in the state, as well as one of the most diverse as well. In fact, we were the second vineyard planted in Terry County, which has been known really as the grape capital of Texas, since most of the grapes that actually go into Texas wine come from where we're at in the Texas High Plains. And over that last 23 years, Reddy Vineyards has been one of the leading suppliers of premium grapes to other producers. So, you all seem like very knowledgeable Texas wine drinkers. There is a very good likelihood that in the past you've had Reddy Vineyard grapes just under different producers' labels. So for instance, we will sell grapes to about 30 different producers throughout the state of Texas every single year. And then what we do ourselves is we will reserve about the top 5 to 10% of grapes from our vineyard to produce our own estate wines. So for us, VJ Reddy has really been a pioneer of the Texas wine industry, been a leader of innovation and experimentation with all those different varietals. He's really helped other producers and growers identify what grows well in the Texas climate, particularly in the High Plains. And it's been really very influential in the development expansion of Texas wine. So with the introduction of our estate wine brand, we really wanted to be able to continue sort of that pioneering spirit and make sure that what we're producing really represents the premier wines that we can make and are very representative of Texas. And one of the things that we always have as part of our philosophy is being authentically Texas. So when you grab one of our wines, you know that it's always 100% Texas grapes. It's 100% estate grown and produced. And I think, we also focus on very small production wines. So one thing for the rosé, for instance, we only made about 750 cases of that rosé. And that's very true and consistent across the board with the rest of our wines. In fact, the 2015 field blend that you'll sample and a little bit too, we only made 150 cases of that wine. So it's like 3 pallets. We're talking micro production, really handcrafted boutique style wines. And for us, that's really important because, especially, while we've had such a strong foundation on the viticulture side, we really want to make sure that we're taking that amazing fruit and presenting that in a way that translates to amazing wine in the bottle as well. So you have the rosé, and Richard gave a terrific introduction of it. So it's a blend of those three different varietals, primarily Cinsault, Mourvedre, and there's a little bit Merlot that we harvested earlier than what we harvested the Merlot for our red wines in order to amplify the color a little bit. So, when we were working on this blend, and sort of the concept before it was that we were really looking to create something very fresh, vibrant, something that had a lot of energy to it, almost sort of something you would see from like Provence in South France, where these varietals hail from. And, that's what we really tried to do, is make that nice crisp, have that acidic sort of kick, but not be overwhelming. And, we're really pleased with the result of this as our first rosé. We actually do have another rosé that we're going to be bottling in July. That's 100% Tempranillo. That will be a lot of fun. But for this wine, we really wanted to just be very, present something that would be perfect for like spring and summer drinking, that would go well with a salad, with fruit, that would just pair with friends, pair with the pool. That's what we're trying to achieve. So we, those varietals are really unique too. The graphic that Richard had didn't quite do the Cinsault justice. It's really an interesting varietal. If you were to walk the vineyard at the time that we harvested this, the grapes were really, they were huge. They were much larger than all the other grape varietals that you would traditionally see going into our wines. They almost resemble more like table grapes. I mean, these were really, really plump, fat, juicy grapes. But for us, we really try to make sure that we're harvesting at the right point to get that nice natural acidity. And I think it's a really nice wine. So I'm going to take a sip here and refresh my palate. But, I get a lot of like strawberry and raspberry characteristics, and a little bit of red, like juicy red apple as well. And it's just so refreshing. It's just a great summer sipper. And, let me know too, if you have questions about any of the wines as we're going along, just feel free to jump on in. We can take the conversation really any direction that you want it to go. So if you have a particular question about Reddy Vineyards or our wines or just Texas wine in general, jump on in the fray, or shoot me a chat message too. I've got that pulled up as well. Okay.
We've got people on Facebook as well, and so we'll be monitoring to see if they have any questions along the way as well. But yeah, there you go, Eric. My background, man. As soon as, I don't know about you guys, but this wine is phenomenal. This rosé, I mean, what a great way to start this tasting, especially with today's heat here in Texas. And you're using hot climate grapes. I mean, this is perfect. And so you don't normally see this a lot in rosés, at least, especially here in Texas. You have a lot of experimentation going on, but I think this is perfect for our climate, for our taste, our heat. I know this is a higher alcohol than I would expect from a rosé, but it's perfectly balanced with all the amount of just, I guess, complexity or overall flavor and aromas that are contributing to the overall taste of this wine. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sammy. And you identify a couple really important things for us too. We really focus on exclusively warm weather varietals for our production. So we have 38 different varietals. There's a lot of different things we can play with. But at the same time, we're really identifying those varietals that we know really grow very well in the warm climate of the Texas High Plains, where we have a very unique situation up there where the elevation is much higher than a lot of the other grape growing regions in the state. So our Reddy Vineyards, for instance, sits at 3,305 feet above sea level. And what that allows us to do is we have a much longer growing season than what you experience in places like North Texas, or even down where most of you are at in the Hill Country. We will start harvesting certain varietals usually about the first week of August. But last year, for instance, our growing season extended all the way to the second week of October. So we will typically see 4 weeks longer hang time for our grapes than what we'll see for other grape growing regions. We have to be really careful, of course, when we're working with the rosé, because we want to harvest those grapes kind of to what Sammy mentioned at a point where you don't have too much sugar accumulation. We're really looking to maintain that nice bright acidity, so we have that zippy characteristic to it, and it's not just a big fat kind of bland style rosé. And I think we were really pleased with the analysis on these grapes and what they look like coming from the vineyard, and I think it translates to something pretty yummy.
Which method do you guys use to make your rosé?
Yeah, so we use like the Sanier method. This is bled off. This was skin contact for, I believe, about 48 hours. So most time you'll see skin contact ranging anywhere from a couple hours to about 72. Sometimes you'll go a little bit longer if you're trying to make something really, really dark, like a dry style, like pink zin, not like white zin. But if you're trying to make like a real dry rosé zin, sometimes you go longer. But yeah, we you get a little bit of that skin contact. We don't want to extract those tannins. We still want this to be a very drink and crisp style wine. But we absolutely love the color of this wine. And, that was one of the elements we were going for too, is sort of that presentation as in addition to the taste.
Beautiful.
I think the price point is really good. I guess it was about a year ago, I had to write an article about rosés, and I bought 5 different ones, and I thought, anywhere from a $20 to a $50, and I was expecting them to get better and better and better. And the $50 one was actually kind of tart and unpleasant. So you don't have to spend a lot to get a really good rosé.
You don't. And, I think this is, we retail this wine for $25 on our website, and that's what we encourage others to do. Unless you're in a restaurant, obviously you got that a little bit more, it's a little bit higher price. But, I think part of that, we really want to balance the quality and the very limited production, which I think, those are the 2 main factors that go into raising the price. Since we only made 750 cases of this, it costs more than, someone who's mass producing a rosé to make, but we also want to make our wines accessible. Like for us, it's very important to be able to spread the word about Texas wines, not only within the state of Texas, but across the country as well. And when most people are, shopping at the $12 to $15 mark, we know our wines are a little bit higher than that. But at the same time, it's really important for us to, have that boutique quality and be really a great representation of everything that Texas has to offer. And, I think as a state, everyone's really starting to hit that mark, and we're getting national recognition, not just Reddy Vineyards, but other producers as well. So people are willing to spend a little bit more for something that they know is handcrafted and, just really good quality.
Great, thanks.
So I got an interesting little topic to bring up. So rosés, one of the main things winemakers and even consumers focus on is color, right? Color is so important. So one of the questions I'd have for you is like, how hard is it to blend to create the perfect color? Because not only do you have to like blend to get the perfect color, but you also have to get the perfect, flavor profile. So it's like 2 different things that you have. It's truly art. You have to balance 2 great things that come together. But also from like the people that are on the call today, when you go to the store, do you guys associate a higher quality rosé by what kind of rosé color? Like, are you guys thinking a darker color rosé is more of a higher price point, or do you think something more lighter Provence style, like almost like a coral, sorority or fraternity summer tank top kind of rosé would be of a higher price point? Because I've always like been interested in this. I see this and I'm thinking fun, or well, my background's not letting me do justice to it, but I see this and I'm thinking fun, fresh, exciting. I'm thinking of a price point between $18 and maybe $28, something like this. But I think it's finesse. I think it's elegant. Whereas if I see something darker colored, I might think it's more of an intense, bold wine. And my personal, I guess, opinion would be like, oh, maybe it's more within like the $15 to $20 to $22 range. So yeah, I'd be interested to see what people in the audience would kind of deem as a more higher quality rosé, lighter colored, darker colored, because we're a certain demographic here in Texas and how we perceive wine, but but yeah, it's an interesting little point, especially since I got to figure out what I got to sell here.
I look at it the lighter being as more expensive. I love my I love my Merlot and that, and I really to learn what's being made into the wines, how to make the rosé. You know, you talked about another one coming up in July.
Yep.
With Tempranillo. Now
Yeah,
that's
Tempranillo.
I love my Tempranillo. I love it very much so. I'm not a real rosé, but this really hit me when I was at the competition and everything. All this, the wine. I mean, it's like wow.
At the end of the day, isn't it skin contact that sort of drives all the color anyway?
Yeah, absolutely, Robin. That's a great point. And, you know, each varietal is going to have different, you know, compositions of color compounds, different concentrations. And also, since you're picking a lot of these varietals earlier than what you would pick for a red wine, because you want to maintain that acidity, sometimes that color hasn't quite developed as much as you would typically see in like Cinsault that you had picked, you know, a few weeks later, that had been able to hang on the vine a little bit longer and achieve a little bit more of that development. And that's, to Sammy's point, one of the really challenging things about making rosé in particular is that you have to watch it so closely to make sure that you're getting just that right amount of color that you're looking for, but without extracting tannin and without going too far and making the wine darker than you might otherwise, you know, hope to achieve. So
my thought is, my introduction to rosés was Mateus back in the 70s when it was still
sure.
Yeah. And then that graduated to a Behringer Blush.
Okay.
You know, and so I've kind of watched waves of this over the course of time, and wondered, are we at a new crossroads for rosé, and where they're going to fit into our palates and world of wines?
I mean, Rob, that's such a good observation, and I think you're absolutely right with that assessment. You know, dry style rosés like the one we're drinking have been around for a long, long time. But you see people in France and Italy are the ones that tend to be the main producers and drinkers of that style. That wasn't really something that the American palate had been accustomed to for a long time, especially after the sort of accidental development of white zin. Because white zin, it's a really good story, you should take a look. It was made by mistake. There was a big oops.
It's still made by mistake.
Yeah. I'm not gonna reserve judgment on anybody. As long as you're drinking wine, that's fine by me. But yeah, it's something that you saw take off. People love that sweeter style rosé, and unfortunately, people began to have the perception after many years of very, very successful white zin and white Merlot sales that all pink juice is going to be sweet. So as the American palate began to develop, particularly you start seeing this in the early and then definitely late 2000s, people start become more introduced to rosé. Like it was the first time it was created, like real dry rosé. People are like, oh, what is this? This is actually really good. In fact, it's been made for a long time. But, you know, the rosé sales, this is one category across the country that you can continuously see growing leaps and bounds every single year, just at astronomical proportions. Before I joined Reddy Vineyards, I was a wine buyer for Total Wine at their headquarters based in Maryland. And, you know, I was on the front lines and I would see what people were buying. Rosé sales from about, say, 2000 and, 15 on, they're growing by hundreds of percentage points every year. And, you know, last year was the first year in the United States in the last 25 years where there was decreased consumption of wine by the American public, yet rosé was one of those outliers that you still saw trending upwards. And that's still true today. So people love dry rosé. I think most people still drink it during spring and summer. They just associate it more with a warm weather type of wine. But at the same time, it's something that you could grab at really any time of the year. And it's really flexible when it comes to pairings, and it's just yummy stuff.
I have a funny story. I I took French for several years because one of my clients was in Toulouse. So my French teacher said that when she first moved with her family to New York, they picked up a White Zinfandel, thinking it was rosé, and were horrified. She was like, Mon Dieu, where have we moved? Is what was her comment about it. She goes, I mean, they were just horrified by it. It's so bad. And it took a while for me to convince some of my friends that liked it to, well, if you're going to go that, maybe just try a Chardonnay with a shot of cassis in it instead.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's still sort of challenging for a lot of people. There's still not wide adoption of dry rosés. I think it's a great sort of gateway wine. If you are somebody who traditionally only drinks either white or somebody who traditionally drinks primarily red, but you want to switch to the other side, it's sort of that middle of the road where you have something that is still crisp and dry and refreshing like a white wine, but it's starting to resemble more of the fruit characteristics that you would get from lighter style reds. So it's a good opportunity to introduce somebody to that new style, but just through rosé. Excellent.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, so now we had a double feature today, and so now we should definitely jump into the main part. The field blend. Yes, I'm stoked here.
Can I just say something about the rosé?
Yes,
please.
Question actually for Eric, if he agrees with this or not. So from all my travels and studies, from what I understand, making the rosé is in fact carries the most art to it. Of course, it's art, science, it's viticulture, art, and science in your glass. But the rosé is the most difficult. And one thing I found over the past 20 years is that if I find a winemaker that makes a good rosé, you can feel complete and total 100% confidence that anything else you buy from that winemaker is going to be very good to excellent.
Yeah, I think, Bonnie, that's a tremendous point, and it's a great observation because, rosé is exceptionally difficult to make because you're trying to balance so many different things. When you're picking grapes for whatever, varietal specific or blend wine you're trying to achieve, you're really focusing in on a lot of different facets, just like you would for the rosé. But the rosé, you got to go one step further because you just have to be very careful about when you're picking those grapes from the vineyard. They just have to have that right acidity. I think if you go too long and they just have too much sugar accumulation and you wind up with something that's kind of just fat and it doesn't have that crisp bite to it. For me, that's not what rosé resembles. Like rosé should still be something that is bright and almost more leans towards the white wine side than it does to the red wine side. So you have to, be very judicious about your picking decisions, and also, monitoring that skin contact during the fermentation process as well, because you want that beautiful color. And, we definitely achieved what we were looking for here. We were looking for something that was that salmon color, a little bit darker than what you typically get from, lighter style Provençal rosés, but we didn't want to go too far and, show that, what we were making wasn't varietal specific or was, different from what we were trying to achieve. So yeah, it's challenging. I think, if you're making a good rosé, chances are the other wines that are coming in your portfolio are probably pretty solid too. So that's a great assessment.
Actually, again, with the varietal, what varietal was used to make this, or which ones were used
for the rosé or for the field?
For the rosé, yeah, the rosé.
So, yeah, it was about 72% Cinsault.
Sorry, I got it.
Yeah, Mourvedre, and then a little Merlot. And the Merlot we added mainly for additional color concentration. So yeah, it's primarily the Rhone varietals.
Sorry, forgive me. The graphic on the other one, it popped into my head where it didn't say which ones they were. Sorry.
Well, like Sammy said, this one's got a little bit more alcohol than most rosés. So I'm already 2 glasses deep. I don't know if you saw me.
I'm on my 3rd glass now, so yeah,
it is what it is.
I'll just mute myself here and.
Cool. Can we move into the field blend?
Let's do it. Oh, I'm excited. And then before we do this, so I had mentioned this to a few people prior to joining the call. And Eric, I know you heard the story, but Lisa on the call was actually so excited to come and grab your wine. But on the way, you know, she popped a tire. But I mean, she was so excited, and we got it to her. So this is a very exciting tasting for us, and it means a lot. For y'all that are on the call, I know some of you were not able to get some of the field blend because it actually sold out rather quickly. So we'll have some more come in on Wednesday. I know right now we're already salivating with the rosé, so I can only imagine what Eric's going to make us want to do, purchase a few more bottles at the end of this. But once again, I'm excited to try this. And so, you know, it's overall, it's an interesting story. You know, the Reddy family coming to Texas out of all places to make wine. And then they're focusing on all these international varietals. And so through every tasting that we continue to do, you know, the question has always been to the winemaker or the special guest, what is your opinion of, or what will be the Texas grape? And so from y'all's, you know, I guess experiment right now with all these different varietals in your vineyards, you know, you get to really play with all these things. And I am absolutely blown away by the blend that you created. But if you were to pick like a specific varietal or varietals, what would be your take as we transition over to the talk to the field blend? Yeah.
So Sammy, that's such a difficult question to unpack, simply because from, you know, what we've seen over the last 23 years, what we see coming from other producers and growers is that the climate is so conducive to these different types of warm weather varietals that you can grow a lot of different things and make them very good. You know, we're so blessed to be able to have these conditions that are similar, if not better than a lot of other growing areas around the world. You know, I mentioned the elevation earlier, but we also have these sandy clay soils that are tremendous as well. They're great for drainage. They're nutrient poor, which is actually beneficial because you want the grapevines to struggle a little bit. They help us fight pests in the vineyard. So, you know, there's 3 or 4 or 5 different reasons right there why it's beneficial. You know, if you've ever been out to Lubbock in the high plains, you know, it's always a little breezy. That breeze is sort of like the Mistral that you see in Rhone, or like the Cape Doctor from South Africa. It always brings in this fresh air, and it keeps the vineyard vibrant and rejuvenated. So when you have, you know, a rain, even if it's in the middle of summer, that wind helps push that moisture through, and you get this nice, fresh, you know, climate, so that we're fighting things like mildew and rot development just because of the weather characteristics that we see up there. So it's really extraordinary what you're able to do. Warm weather varietals, definitely. You know, I know a lot of Texas producers are getting behind Tempranillo. It's our #1 growing varietal. We have about 40 acres of Tempranillo. We sell it out every single year to other producers, and we pick some for ourselves as well. You know, what we're seeing, especially this year, is a very high demand for Touriga Nacional, which is a Portuguese varietal, and it blends extremely well with Tempranillo. It's actually part of our blend in our award-winning TNT blend, which is really nice as well. You know, white varietals like Viognier, Marsanne, Roussanne, those Rhone varietals that are already used to that warm climate, reflect really positively in the high plains as well. For me, I'm a little bit different. You know, I think all those are very strong varietals. My personal favorite from what I've tasted, not only from our vineyard, but from other producers in terms of potential, is Merlot. I love Texas Merlot. It tastes like right bank Bordeaux to me. So it's a little bit earthier. It's not as jammy and sweet and juicy as you get from like California. It's developed and really, really yummy. You gotta balance the picking decisions on that, because you don't want pyrazines and that green flavor like green bell pepper or other green notes to come through. So you got to be careful of that. But I love Texas Merlot. For me, that's just a really, really yummy varietal with, I think, a lot of potential that some producers have seen, but others are going in other directions. But like I said, there's so many good options that you could do out here. Montepulciano, Sangiovese, really strong contenders for Texas varietals. Yeah, it's pretty cool out here.
So, question, you were talking about your Cinsault earlier, and typically it grows in the south of France, and I mean places like Lebanon and Morocco. So that's hot and dry, and now you're talking about Merlot, which usually does best in northern France, Burgundy, better in Oregon. I'm not a fan of the California one. So how do you get both of those where you're at?
Yeah, so if you look at Bordeaux, like Bordeaux is sort of the quintessential, the world leader, if you will, for Merlot. Washington State is making some amazing Merlots as well. But right bank of Bordeaux has a lot of sandy soils. It's got similar temperatures, maybe not the peaks that we see during the summer out here. It's definitely a little bit cooler, but they fight some similar climatic issues as well. But yeah, I think it just takes well to the soil. I think if you manage the vines appropriately and you have the right canopy to help protect those grapes, they're really solid. I absolutely love the Merlot that we have coming out. We're actually bottling a Merlot-dominated Bordeaux-style blend in July. It's about 70% Merlot. It is awesome. I can't wait to get it in the bottle so that I could start drinking it from something other than the barrel. And, it's just really, really lovely. But to tie it back to sort of the 15 field blend, this is sort of a great example of the warm weather international varietals that you can utilize in the high plains and be really successful with. So this is a blend of Montepulciano, Barbera, and Sangiovese. There are some other percentages of some other varietals in there too, but those are the main varietals in there. So we named this wine the Field Blend. I mean, most of you have this in front of you because it is a traditional field blend. And you can see with both the rosé and this wine that we block designate all of our wines. For us, it's really important. It goes back to what I was talking about at the top of the tasting, which was being very authentically Texas, and knowing that all the grapes that you find in these bottles comes from Texas and comes from our estate. But we could take you to the exact area in the vineyard where all this fruit comes from. It's no mystery. It's not fruit coming from California. It's not fruit coming from somewhere else. We handle it literally from the vine, growing the vine, all the way through the bottling process. So I think that makes it really special. But this comes from a block that we call the circle. It's literally a circle-shaped area in the vineyard. You get a 360 degree sun exposure. And this was sort of one of the innovations, again, of Dr. Reddy, and setting Reddy Vineyards apart from other producers and trying something new. Most vineyards are planted to north-south or east-west facing vine arrangements, depending on the sun and the exposure that you want. But this one is literally a circle, and it's a mixture, interspersed plantings of these different Italian varietals. So it's really cool to see how this develops. And this is one block that we probably do the least amount of work on this block. It's one of the ones that we just don't do a whole lot to. We don't really prune it a whole lot. We don't, weed it a whole lot. We just kind of let it do its thing. And what we've been finding is vintage after vintage, it's delicious. Our 2017 won a gold medal at Texas International Wine Competition. We just bottled the 2018 vintage as well. So it's just a really cool wine. And that goes back to the name Field Blend. So Field Blend means harvested. Basically, these varietals are harvested all together, and they are co-fermented together. So most wines, even blends, you'll pick each varietal separately, ferment them separately, and only at a period of time before bottling do you conduct blend trials and you find a blend that you think is the best expression of those wines. So this is completely different. We take these varietals, which have different ripening schedules, and we pick them all together at one time. We co-ferment them all in one lot together. So they're always partners from front to back. So it's very vintage specific, but it always turns out to be something really, really unique.
You answered a lot of the questions that I had about the idea of behind the blend, and I'm guessing that because you're the way that you're doing it, that there's consistency to the percentages that you have on all these grapes from year to year. Have you noticed some big swings in your vintages, based on the way you do it?
Yeah, definitely, Rob. That's a tremendous question. And I will say you could, we just as a general philosophy in terms of our winemaking are not necessarily looking to make the same, that same wine to taste the same vintage after vintage. We're not afraid of vintage variation. We're not making recipe wines. We're really taking what the earth gives us and what, we're able to do in the vineyard and craft it into the best representation of itself. So for each of our wines, like the TNT that we're bottling in July is a slightly different percentage than the 2017 that I showed you earlier. And that's just because that's what tasted best to us. So we're not looking to replicate the exact same percentages. With the field blend, we never really know. We know generally what percentage of each varietal is planted in the circle, but at the same time, because each has a different ripening schedule, sometimes some varietals are just thrive better than others in particular vintages. You're going to see a different composition, and we never truly know the percentages of what this wine has in store. So, on the back of most of our wines, we will varietally label based on the percentages when we can. The field blend, we don't, and we really can't because we don't accurately know how much Monty or how much Sangio or how much Barbera is actually going into that particular vintage for the wine. But for us, it's kind of that playful expression from the vineyard, and yeah, it's a block that other people have asked us for because they've made really strong wines from it before, and generally we're really accommodating. But this is one that we kind of keep for ourselves, and it's actually pretty special. VJ's son Akil, who's actually the owner of the winery aspect of the business and is really the leader on that end, got married in the middle of the circle. And we have wedding venues out there. We have other people get married. So it's a really special place for the Reddy family and for others in the community. So we try not to mess with it too much. And we just, always enjoy what comes from it.
So I've got two quick questions. I'm losing power on my phone. I didn't pay attention before I jumped on. Two things that I noted when the aroma jumped out of the glass when I poured mine, and then I guess the second thing is I noted 15%. If you'd comment on both those, I'll try and hang on as long as I can.
Yeah. So I'd say the 15% is not unusual. Most of the wines that you'll see from our vineyard tend to be, elevated alcohols. So most of our wines are going to range from about 14 to 15% alcohol. For us, that's just part of the balance that we have to try to achieve with the warmer climate. So we have many things that are very conducive to growing premium grapes, but heat is something that we have to be very careful of. So there's a lot of canopy management. The vines in our vineyards tend to be a little bit bushier than what you might see in places that are consistently cooler, like Oregon, or even in places like Napa. And that's our ability to really maintain some coverage and protection from those grapes. What was the first part of your question again? I'm sorry.
The aroma.
The aroma. Yeah. No, I think that's really important, Rob. And for me, if I was to, wine producers will always tell you that the most important thing about their vineyard and what's different from everybody else is the terroir. It's the sense of place. It's that climate. It's that soil. And we've kind of talked about that a little bit. But if I was to tell you what makes Reddy Vineyards wine so special versus everywhere else, and to tie it into that sense of place, it's the aroma, especially on the red wines. I have not consistently had red juice that is more aromatic anywhere. Like you could get the same type of blend from Tuscany or Montepulciano. You could get Bordeaux blends from Bordeaux. They're just not as aromatic as the wines we're able to craft out here. And some of that is, because of very careful fermentation that we do. But you have top places all around the world that are using state-of-the-art technology as well. And they're also controlling fermentation and maintaining that aroma characteristics. But for whatever reason, the reds across the board just leap out of the glass with these vibrant, delicious aromas that you would almost more expect from like a white wine. It's really fascinating. I don't have an explanation for it other than it's the sense of place.
Bonnie was asking if by any chance you have a picture of the Circle Vineyard. That would be so cool. Or maybe we can, if you don't have it at the moment, if you could send it maybe at some point, and then I can send it over to all the people that attended the call via email.
Yeah, I could definitely do that. I think if you go to reddyvineyards.com, not only can you purchase more of our delicious wine there, but if you go to the events page, you will see sort of our event barn and the circle all dollied up real nice for weddings, and you'll actually get to see that Circle Vineyard there. So reddyvineyards.com, and go to the events tab, and there'll be some pictures of the circle right in there.
Oh, that's beautiful. Very beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. The area is incredible. Just West Texas is incredible. We love this wine. This is a wine that's really soft. It's smooth and easy to drink. You get that red fruit characteristic. Some of that comes from, the aging. This was aged for 32 months in neutral barrels. So we really let the fruit shine, but it also got really soft, and the tannins are really well integrated. It's just a lovely wine. I actually recommend a pairing for the field blend more often than not to err on the side of like a heavy fish, like a salmon or even like a swordfish or something like that that's got nice seasoning, as opposed to like a big chunk of meat, because this wine just tends to just support that type of heavy fish better, and really just shows very well the power of a red wine with like a fish dish.
There's a kind of a really pretty nutty smell in the aroma. I can't quite tell what it is. I mean, I'm thinking chestnut or something, but it's just a sweet, nutty smell that's really pretty initially.
Yeah, absolutely, Rich. I think that's a terrific observation. You get that nutty element. You get a little bit of more of what we call secondary notes, things that have developed over time because that wine was rested in the barrel for so long. On the nose and even on the palate, it's a little bit less kind of young and fruit rich. You get more dried fruit notes like dried cherry or fig, but then you get these amazing expressions of like nuttiness or caramel, or a little bit of like chocolate, like cherry pipe tobacco, which is just like really sweet and inviting. So you start to see a lot more of that. And for us, I think that's really cool. We have the 2017 in bottle and the 2018 in bottle. We aged them a little bit differently, but those are really young wines, and they're tremendous and they're yummy. But it's cool to see how a few years in cellar will really help that wine develop and even become maybe better than what it is now, which is very exciting.
It's opened up just within the hour that we've had it open here. So.
Yeah, and so as a follow-up on the cellaring, what are your suggestions on that?
So I think the 15 is ready to drink now. We did a lot of the cellaring for that vintage for you because we didn't, that's not cellared in bottle. That was actually cellared in barrel for 32 months. And then it's had about a year in bottle as well. So this is a wine that I think is really, showing very well. It's something that you could hold on to for a couple years, but, I would really drink this wine over the next year or two. Whereas our 2017 field blend, I think, is much different. We put it in a little bit more new French oak. So whereas this one was primarily neutral oak in order to really exemplify the fruit characteristics, We did the 2017 at about 30% new French oak. So not a lot, just a touch, just to add a little bit more complexity, a little bit more tannin, a little bit more depth. But that wine is drinking just very young right now. It's delicious if you like more of like a California cab. If you like that style of wine, you'll love the 2017 field blend. But if you're looking for something that more resembles the wine that you're sampling now, you know, I would hold on to the 17 for, you know, 5 years, drinks well over the next 10 years. You know, and that's really, really exciting.
Cool.
Yeah, this was a really exciting wine to try once again in the panel. So for those that chimed in late or missed kind of the promotions that we're doing, I was so excited to have Eric and Reddy Vineyards come on to our virtual tastings because we had tasted this during the 2020 Texas International Wine Competition where I actually met a few of you, and Bonnie's on the call. She's the founder of the Texas International Wine Competition, and Kathy was working that event as well. And so Emily too, I think Emily, you were there volunteering as well. But you know, we had upwards, I think we actually exceeded 700 wines this year, if I'm not mistaken. Correct, Bonnie? I think we just went over 700 entries from around the world.
Just a few shy of that, I think, but Bonnie knows the exact number.
Yes, well, we had 670 entries initially. Some extras came in. We had one more country come in. We had wines from 11 countries.
Yeah, that's right.
And we had judges representing 8 countries. We had two MWs. One was a Count John Salvi from Bordeaux, but he's a Count from his father from Italy. And he was the 20th Master of Wine in the world. He's celebrating his 50th anniversary this year. And then we had Joel Butler, who was the first of 2 people passed finally. Well, the Count started testing in 1966. He finally passed in 1970. He was only the 20th person to pass. Wow. Joel Butler passed with one other person in 1990. And I think he might have been the 120th. I'm not sure the number of Joel Butler. But Joel Butler was one of the very first 2 people in the United States that ever passed the MW exam. So we were very, very honored. We had Ireland, like I said, we had judges from like 8 countries represented, which was really cool. And people with just so much experience. It was amazing. And like Sammy said earlier, to receive a double gold, a double gold is like you just made a hole in one in golf. Chances of a winemaker hitting a double gold is like really, really rare. And then I get goosebumps because it was funny when I found out that Reddy Vineyards got best of class Texas, best of class red. It was like, oh my gosh, I know these people. And so I had to go back and look. And it was really funny because we did our late entry judging down at Newsom Vineyards in Comfort. Yeah. And that's when I met Dr. Reddy and his wife, they had come down with Neil Newsom and his wife. Yeah. And so it was really funny. I had to go back digging through the pictures to find that picture. And I said, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So, you know, like they say, you are who your friends are. And so I will say that, you know, you hang out with people that are just amazing grape growers. Just look up how many awards, you know, I mean, seriously. So yeah. I was super, super excited. I can't tell you.
Yeah, Bonnie, it's so cool. And I think that speaks volume on so many different levels. Like people all around the world want to come to Texas to judge Texas wines because they know that this is a place that, you know, is producing amazing quality wines. And I think only more people are going to start to see that. And it's such a privilege to work for the Reddy family. You know, I do this because of them, you know, the legacy that Dr. Reddy and his wife have really created and the son is picking up and running with and doing extraordinary things with. Just being a part of that team and being able to support them is really cool. And then Bonnie, to your point, you know, seeing VJ and his wife Subida walking around with like Neil Newsom and his wife at places like Twigga, or sometimes they'll just pop into the winery. It's like, oh, it's Neil Newsom right there. It's awesome. You know, they're friends. They're hanging out on the vineyard, driving around in the same golf cart. And it's just super cool, like to see like the OGs, if you will, you know, getting together. They all know each other. They love each other. And, you know, being a part of sort of that next generation of, you know, Texas producers and the family is very cool. So it's pretty special.
And it's interesting how you're saying, I mean, we have so many different capabilities here in Texas, so many different microclimates to grow different styles of wine from around the world. And so, being the second most visited wine region in the U.S., I think this is going to be extremely important. And I continue to ask the questions like to the winemaker or the owner, like, what is your idea of the Texas grape? But I actually wanted to stay as diverse as it is because it just continues to build that interest of visiting, going out to support your local wineries, and then always the sense of, or the spirit of experimentation, And so, especially with quarantine, after all this, I would think people would support more local, and they would start looking for, it's like you basically can travel the world through, or in terms of the world of wine, in your own state with all these different wines that are being produced, especially from Reddy Vineyards, plug. So, but it's really exciting. And to go back really briefly to the panel of judges. So as Rob was saying, and I got to kind of just tap into memory, and after 3 glasses of rosé, it might not work as good. But, I remember smelling it, and as Rob said, like the first thing was the aromas. And so for a lot of the times, like as a judge in this panel, and then once again, to kind of like preface, we were a group of 4 judges, different ages and different types of experiences with wine. And so different ideas of what makes the perfect wine. And so to Bonnie's point, to have all judges come at once and say, this is a gold, it's hard. It's like going to your girlfriend's house and the parents approve right on the spot. It's like, it is amazing. So, and you had all these wines. And so a lot of times it would be like, you get this intense, beautiful aroma popping out of the glass. And you're just like, wow, you're falling in love. It's like the girl or guy you see at the bar, you're like, this is the one. You go up to them and they're like, personality is not there. So it was just the wine that actually met it was giving what it was kind of giving you the expectation of. It, like, the nose met with the flavors, and it had a beautiful finish. So it was tough when we went to the best in class portion. We were having to really come down to the situation of, do we give it to a Texas Tempranillo or a Texas Field Blend? And I mean, you had multiple Ciano, Barbera, Sangiovese. And I was like, guys, you don't see this in Texas a lot. This is phenomenal. Like, this is awesome. And then the other wine had a little bit more on the side of Old World. It had more of the evolution aspect to it. I mean, you guys were 2015. This other one probably was around the same vintage. Cool. But here in Texas, there's different taste profiles. There's different approaches of making wine. And for a while, there was the idea of having more of this oxidative nose, so more of that Old World style, just to give it more of that more of that sharp acidity, from the VA coming out. And so your wine was like perfectly matured, perfectly expressing itself on the nose and on the palate. And I just congratulate you guys. I think it was phenomenal. And like, it was, even if it was like a tough decision between the Tempranillo and you guys, I mean, it was a quick decision to make. So congratulations.
We really appreciate it. It's really exciting. We can't wait to submit some of our new wines as well. Again, we do it all for the state of Texas, and to show everybody else that, we can make wines that are better than you guys. And that's a challenge. Bring it on. And, it's just really cool to see what everybody else is doing. Again, special thanks to Austin, Texas Wine Society, and Sammy, to you at Wanderlust Wine Company. You're doing some really amazing things, and excited to see what's on the chopping block coming from your way too. So very, very cool. But what I would just say, I guess, in closing, is keep supporting Texas wine. Lots of different producers out there making lots of amazing wine. And the more that we can get the word out beyond the state of Texas, I think we just need to wake some people up and show them that we've got the goods here. And it's really exciting to be here right now and to be a part of it.
Thank you so much. Any kegs in the near future from Reddy Vineyards down to Wanderlust?
Yeah, I mean, we could do that. It's not something that we've typically done, just because it's, but yes. The answer is yes.
Okay, yeah. Right on.
You're going to get a lot of people doing that for you, Sammy.
Oh man, I mean, exclusivity here, that would be great, having you guys.
So what you got to do then, Sammy, is you got to come up to see us.
Absolutely.
We'll lead you through the barrels. You pick out the barrel that you want, and we'll give you that barrel, and it'll be exclusive to you. We'll make you a special blend. We'll give you the special treat.
That's awesome.
You'll get that
I'm
wine.
ready.
That is
We'll do a
super
road
cool.
trip.
That's
Super
go.
cool.
red carpet type of stuff right there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for tasting with us today.
Cheers.
Another quick cheers. Yeah, let's hit it.
Cheers.
All right.
Sarah,
I'll be talking with Eric to get a little bit more of his phenomenal wines from Reddy Vineyards here down in Wanderlust. If you guys want to drive up here, he will. I don't know. We'll see. I'll send an email out. We'll follow up to see how long this special lasts. If you guys like the wine, definitely stock up a bit more, either directly through him or through us. But as he mentioned, I mean, this was an exclusive offering for our virtual tasting. Retail price is normally 20% more. So thank you, Eric, number one, for doing that.
Sure.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's my pleasure. I'll be happy to extend that for another week. I'll go ahead and do that right now in the system. So if you wanted to stock up on some, go grab it from Sammy. But if you're not in Austin, I'll ship it to you. Part of that promotion is you get free shipping, so it'll come right to your door, no extra cost to you, and be a good way to stock up on some wines.
Phenomenal. Thank you.
It's been an adventure this
very
time.
much.
And then, and guys, those of you that are still on the call. So next week might mark the semi-end to quarantine. We will see. We will see. But I mean, we're still trying to go out with a bang. And so we are going to add a food component. I know we've been talking about it for a while. How can we integrate, or as Randy mentioned it, Randy Hesser from CO Bateau Wines, research into our tasting aspect. So we're going to include the heel of the boot into our next tasting. So in case you're a little bit hungry, I mean, we're basically downing 2 bottles right now. So I bet the drunches are starting to hit. So we're going to be offering some food. They're available either through DoorDash, Uber Eats, stuff like this, or they can also self-deliver, or not personally deliver, excuse me. And we're going to be partnering up with William Chris as for one of our last quarantine edition virtual wine tastings, another big name for the Texas wine industry. So we're excited. We've got food, we've got a great producer, and we're going to be hopefully either featuring the Anglianico, which, as we're basically kind of continuing on from the Italian varietals here into one more. If not, they're very well known for their Mourvedre. Mourvedre has been their kind of flagship grape. So no matter what, it's going to be a great time. That one I might have to end a little bit earlier, but thank you guys. Looking forward to seeing you guys next weekend. I got some wines to sell here, but cheers, y'all, and
Thanks.
happy Saturday.
Cheers. Thank you, Eric.
Cheers.
Very,
Thank
very
you,
much.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
Mm.
Thank you. Cheers.
What do we need to eat? 'Cause I'm not going anywhere. What happened?
Well, that was a pretty good wine.
That was awesome.
What'd y'all think about it?
I'm gonna be stocking up. Sammy, you still there? No, he's muted. I need more.
Yeah, Sammy's still here. He's talking to another guy that's coming down that just came in to check his place out.
Well, I have a suggestion. I mean, just because we're, lifting these restrictions and stuff, I've been able to participate so much more because we went virtual instead of having to try to make events.
Oh, we're gonna keep them coming. We're gonna keep them coming.
Yes, please.